Here we're resuming our class, our learning of this beautiful speech that the Lubavitcher Rebbe gave in 1989. And in the speech, first of all, the calendar was exactly the same as it is this year. Namely, that Yud Beit Tammuz, which is this coming Shabbat, Yud Beit Tammuz fell on Shabbat. Yud Beit Tammuz fell on Shabbat. And it was also talking about Bilam. So it all came out the same, just like this year. So there is these three things, Yud Beit Tammuz and Shabbat and Bilam, are all just fortifying and, how do you say it, certifying, there's such a word, that Moshiach has to come any second, and that's the whole purpose of the creation. And it's not just a side religious thing for some sort of a fanatic group. The essence of a creation is Moshiach is going to come and make this world a meaningful place to everybody, the whole entire world. And the Rebbe said that Yud Beit Tammuz is because the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe, he defeated communism, which communism is a truly evil force with the best promises you could possibly imagine. The most amazing slogans and what do they call them? And there's a good word for it. I just heard it yesterday. Anyway, with these amazing slogans and sayings and epithets, such a word, about brotherhood and etc. So luring to everybody. In fact, it was perhaps the greatest evil that has ever been visited on mankind. That people themselves willfully destroyed themselves. Right? The other kings, whatever, the Nazis, all these people, they said, we're going to destroy you. And communism says, we're going to convince you to destroy yourself. No more money, no more intuitive, and I'm saying in initiative. Everybody's going to be the same. This going to work according to your ability. We're going to tell you what's good. We're going to tell you what's right. We're going to tell you this is. So it ended up that everybody just stopped being human beings. There was no more charity, no more, right? The government decides what's good. People don't know what's good. Only we know what's good. So it's basically, to give into this was basically suicide. And the previous Lubavitcher, they tried it in Israel for a while, in the kibbutz, a total failure. Everywhere it went, it was just disaster and misery and failure. And they just but the sayings were so good, and they convinced everybody that there's no other alternative. This is it. So the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe stood against this. We've said this so many times, but the whole, main power behind communism was murder. They murdered people. They simply murdered people. Stalin murdered like 50 million people in order, when they had the Russian Revolution, one side against the other, they murdered each other. They were murdering and killing people. And that was all in the guise of, good and justice and kindness and honesty. And of course, the other guys, they're against kindness and honesty. You got to kill them with it. So for them, Judaism was like the biggest disease of mankind. And because Judaism says that everybody is different and everybody is special, and there's supposed to be rich people and there's supposed to be poor people, and the rich people are supposed to give and care about the poor people. That's the way it's supposed to be. And to a great degree, it is that way in Judaism. It is that way in Judaism. For a great degree, the Jews really give charity, and they give charity to the poor. They give charity to the poor. Jews like to give charity. They like to give charity. But the religious Jews are, in addition to the fact they like to give charity, they're also commanded and convinced that it's a good thing to give charity. And they give a lot of charity. There's hundreds, thousands of charitable groups in Judaism that exist only from charity. Almost all of the yeshivot, almost all of the yeshivot exist, 90% or 100% just from charity. That's from people giving for charity. There's a certain degree, that there's a certain amount that, from tuition and things like that, but most of it is just from charity. Okay, so that's what it's supposed to be. That's the whole idea of of revealing godliness in the world. Good. So it says that's where therefore there has to be these three things. Number one, there were these three things. The previous Rebbe got out of prison. He defeated communism. He defeated this anti-charity movement of and pro-death movement, which is called communism. Therefore, okay, number one. Number two, Shabbat. Shabbat is basically the same thing. Shabbat is the idea of Moshiach. We just finished learning in the Likutei Torah. Shabbat is the day where everybody sees and feels God. Our service, our work is for God. You're not supposed to work to fix the world up. That's instead the days of the Mashiach, when the world will be basically fixed up. And our job will just be to concentrate and reveal more godliness and goodness in the world. And the same thing is the Parshas Balak. Parshas Balak is talking about how blessings were created from curses. That all the curses, all the bad things, all the anti-Semitism suddenly became big blessings, like we just explained. And the Rebbe says even more. Next week's Torah portion, which is what we're going to read in Mincha of Shabbat, is Pinchas. And Pinchas, it says, is Elijah the prophet. Elijah the prophet is supposed to come and announce the future redemption. The Rambam says he's going to come together with the future redemption. He's going to come before, but nevertheless he's going to come. It's part of it. According to this, which now we can explain. So the Rebbe said that's just like Shabbat. That's the whole idea of Shabbat. Shabbat is the day when you do not work, not even to make the holy tabernacle. And the 6 days of the week, you can work, but it's supposed to be in order to build the tabernacle. In other words, all the mundane things that you do are really holy. Okay. According to this, now we can explain the reason for this whole order of Shabbat. If you remember, the Rebbe asked the question. If you look at the Mishnah on Shabbat, and Mishnah's in Shabbat, what is it? The fifth chapter, is it? Fifth chapter? Seventh chapter? So it says Klal Gadol b'Shabbat, and it says what the 39 works are in Shabbat. Remember? So why does it? That doesn't say 39. It says 40 minus 1. It says because it says 40 times malacha regarding Shabbat. 40 times it says malacha. The word malacha, do work on Shabbat, 40 times. And 39 of them are forbidden. One of them is permissible and it's good. What is that one that's permissible? The work of the tzaddikim. It says that work of the tzaddikim of bringing more godliness into the world, that is hard work, like we just finished learning, amal. This is work, but on Shabbat it's permissible. So that's the whole idea of Shabbat. But if you look at the Mishnah, what it says over there, what are these 39 things that are forbidden that you can only do on the weekday? And just to refresh everybody's memory, where do we get this idea of exactly what are these 39 things that are forbidden? It's because these are what the rabbis analyzed, all of the different types of work and building that had to be done in order to make the tabernacle, and they analyzed that there are 39 essential types of works that were necessary to make the tabernacle, and all of these are forbidden to do on Shabbat, only on the weekdays. This is interestingly enough, if you look at the order of what these are, so it says Hazoreya v'Hachorish. It says, first of all, seeding, planting, and plowing. So the Rebbe, is not the proper order. If you're going to already list the order of things, how they're done, first of all, you plow, and then in the furrows where you plow, you plant. Why is it that in the Mishnah it says planting first? So he says, no, we can understand. And it begins with planting, and it ends up, it begins with planting before plowing, and the last of them is taking from one domain to the other. That was another question that Rebbe asked. There's one of the 39 forbidden works is to put the finishing touches on something. It's called makab patish. The last hit you do with a hammer to fix something up, that's also forbidden to do on Shabbat. Because they did that in the tabernacle in order to finish off the tabernacle. That's forbidden to Shabbat. Why? That should be the last one. The finishing touch, that should be the last one, but it's not. In the list of the 39 works, the first one is planting. That's not understood. It should be plowing. And the last one is taking from one domain to another. But that's also not, doesn't seem to be right. It should be putting on the finishing touches. That should be the land. So why does it start with planting and finish with taking from one domain to another? The in the beginning and the end of these works, these types of work that are forbidden on Shabbos, it's stressed hatochen haklali. It's stressed not the physical work you do, but the purpose. What is accomplished by these works? And it's talking about these works, we said, is corresponds to the exile. We have to work, like the 6 days of the week. We have to work in order to fix up things. The world demands fixing up. That's exile. That's Zamana Birur. That's like the 6 days of the week when we refine the world. Hazorea. So the first of these is planting. You want to fix up the world? First of all, you have to plant. You do it like it's not closing, the whole idea of exile is compared to being planted. Like it says, Zarati li ba'oretz, I have planted the Jews in the earth. Hamotzi mirishut lishut. So that's the whole idea of exile, is that God put us, the Jewish people, into the earth so that we should refine and grow. The earth, of course, is exile. The end of the exile is taking from one domain to another. That finishes the whole thing. How does it finish? Shari Klol is the whole idea of the exile. Banim shegalam yal shulchan avim. It says that these are like children that have been exiled from the table of their father. That's exile. Who is al derech v'dugmat hotzad mirishut l'shkodesh bruhu. So to speak, the Jews have been taken out of the domain of the Creator, the Rishut Acheret, to another place. Everything is in the domain of God, right? Ask a Jew in the street if that's right or not. They'll say, what are you talking about? That's exile. Exile means we don't feel we're being created. We don't feel there's a purpose for the creation. We don't feel that we have any challenge from every detail and every moment that we meet someone to do something good. And life, we're just living, that's all. Right? What I benefit is good. That's what it means. The whole idea of exile is that God took us from his domain and he put us into a strange domain. When all the Jews were together in the land of Israel and we had the Holy Temple, so we were, so to speak, in God's domain. You felt godliness every moment of your life. You were aware there's a holy temple. Our purpose in our life is to serve God. And true, the Jews didn't live up to God's expectations, but the expectations were very high. And their ability to fulfill these expectations, their abilities were also very high. They could have done it. Okay, so they didn't do it. Whatever happened, God took them out of that domain of holiness and godliness and awareness of what's real, and he threw them into another domain, a domain of egotism. And that he even threw, to a certain degree, the whole land of Israel into that domain. But to a certain degree, God is less concealed in the land of Israel than he is outside, but he certainly is concealed. Look at the government, look what's going on. So God is concealed. It's good. The land is good. The people are good. But that's all concealed, that good. So to speak, we're in a different domain. Kiviyachol, so to speak. Shezeo, this is a sachakol. That's the whole idea of what exile is. Exile is that the good is concealed and we have to refine it. Zman birur of 39 malachas, we have to do all this work in order to take us out of the exile, to take us out of the domain, this false imprisonment that we're in, which is the product of our own bad thoughts and desires, and we have to just readjust ourselves and readjust the world. Al derech zeh, similarly, is also the Maaseh Avodatenu, all of the service that we do all the time of exile. This is birur. This is just refining, clarifying, cleaning up our glasses, taking the 39 works which are necessary in order to fix up our relationship to God, that put us back at home. Hazorea, Zuriya, the Inyani Torah mitzvahs, namely that's planting. Planting, we said, before we said planting, that's going into exile. Now we're talking about how to get out of exile. First, we have to begin with planting. Planting means doing Torah, doing the commandments, even if you don't know what you're doing, like a seed, you plant it in the ground, you don't know what's going to grow from it. Suddenly there grows up something totally different than the seed. Same thing, do Torah, do the commandments. That, the Rebbe says, we have to trust him. That's the seed. Like it says, Zarei lechem tzedakah, like it says planting, says charity. Somebody came in? Is anybody here? No, okay. Like it says, Hamotzim, and that's the whole idea of going, the end of the exile is going from one domain to the other. That's the end, the last of the 39 malachas, 39 different types of work we have to do to get out of this exile. The last one is the going from one domain to another. Kedua, shenakurat the tochen, the whole point of the whole entire, of all these 39 different types of work we do in order to get out of the exile, in order to fix up the world and get the Shabbat, is Hotzeit, coming out from one domain to another, going out from Hotzeit mirishuto shel Kodesh Baruch Hu rishut yachid yechidu shel olam lirishut rabim alma the pruda. Says the, one second. That's right. What we have to do, the whole idea of working is to refine the world, but also more to draw God into the world, to take Hotzeh, to draw the unity of God into the, going from the unity of God, which is Yerushuti Yachid, and he's the unity, into this physical world, and others making blessings in this world, so that this world becomes a private domain of God. I'll the abiru by means of this, also the other way around, to put this world into the domain of God, by means of the working on the 39 works in the course of the time of exile. So we come to Geula Mitit V'Shlem, we come to a total redemption, and then will be revealed the Eloi, the tremendous blessing, which is made by means of Hazorea, God planting us, the fact that God planted us in the world. There we go. God planted a multi-rishut to rishut until we actually bring from one domain to another. We bring godliness into this world. Hazorea, that's the idea of planting. Like it says, a mushal, Hazorim Garin, you put one seed into the ground and it grows up many seeds, right? The seed grows into a tree, which qualitatively and quantitatively, it's much different from the seed. But there's also a big miracle, is that in each one of these apples, for instance, whatever there is, or grains of wheat, there's hundreds of seeds, tens of seeds. I don't know how many seeds are in an apple, but on the apple tree that grows up, there's thousands of seeds. It's one seed. So that's the idea of planting the Jews in the world in exile. This is like you plant one seed in the ground that grows up a full tree that has all sorts of branches, namely Shirita the Gullus, that coming into this exile is not just a punishment. It's in order that by means of this will be growing up incomparable. That's what's called going from one domain to another. Namely, that's the good way. Going, exile is that we've been taken from the domain of holiness and brought into the domain of egotism. The good way of looking at it, because we don't see God, the good way of it is taking from the the public domain to the private domain, that the whole entire world will become a private domain. The Yechidu Olam, to the one Yechidu Olam of the, how do you say, the one God which unites the whole world. The whole world will become a dwelling for God. We'll see how mysterious and precious every detail of the world is, that only here could God really be revealed. Again, we can't allow ourselves to be poisoned by the ideas of these other religions that God is something that's, he's just going to wipe out the whole world, and the greatest thing you can do is go to heaven, and that there won't be any more world anymore. We'll just be souls up there in heaven. That is a very, how do you say, if you want to call it, evil idea. First of all, it's pure egotism. All these religions are saying that you're in the world for yourself, and you want to get the most for yourself. Don't mess around with the stupid things in this world, physical world. Go for heaven. Or you got to go into heaven. What do you do in order to get into heaven? Well, there's different books. You believe in this, you think this, you do this. And Judaism says, no, the whole purpose is to bring heaven here, that we have to make this world and show every detail of this world is even higher than heaven. Heaven requires divestment from this world. This world, in a way, requires divestment from heaven, that we stop thinking that the spiritual is the main thing. In this world is revealed the essence of God, not just the spiritual. What all the angels are going berserk to the essence of God. And what do they say? Kadosh, Kadosh, God is very high. And what do they say? Malo kala oretz kavodo. The glory of God is in the physical world, in the physical, and in our houses and our cars, and that's where. But we have to reveal it. That to us is incomprehensible. A little bit what's comprehensible is these other religions. They say, the world is bad. Get up into the heavens, right? That's a little bit sort of understandable. But to say that this world is the highest, that's not even in the realm of understanding. And that's what's going to be revealed. That's the fact. That we're being created, and God is creating us, and He loves us, being creating us from love, and He wants us to be here. That's why the whole end of the whole business is going to be the raising of the dead. To make a dwelling for God in this world. Look, and therefore, the beginning is the redemption of the Jewish people, that all the Jewish people will go out. They go back to it says, to the table of their fathers. As Hotzei Gomor, this is a total going out. Hotza'ah, that's the last of the 39 works, is going totally out of a public domain into a private domain. By Akira Gomorrah, you leave totally the exile, and going totally into the land of Israel, to call Yoshveh Aleh Kapishito Mamash, like it really is. It's almost like, you go to a doctor, a person, let's say, Uncle Joe or Grandpa or whatever, he has a stroke and he's totally paralyzed and he's totally out of it. And comes along a doctor and he heals him. He comes back to his consciousness. And so the people say, thank you, doctor, very much. Now what? The doctor says, what do you mean now what? I mean, he's healed. He was in a coma and now he's, he can work perfectly well. It's okay. He said, okay, good. He can work perfectly, but now what? Now what does he do? He said, well, I don't know. It's just up to you. I just healed his body. What's he supposed to do with his soul? It could be that he's Stalin. He just healed Stalin. Who knows? What's he supposed to do? When God heals everybody, so everybody's going to know that there's a tremendous, wonderful goal, and that is to reveal more and more meaning and godliness and blessing in every detail of the world, not just to take away the bad. That's the idea of a physical doctor. It's the same thing as a veterinarian. He just takes away the bad things, and the dog is healthy. Now what does the dog do? A dog acts like a dog. Right? If people get healthy, what are they supposed to do? A person acts like a person. What does that mean? Act like a person. What does that mean? What are you supposed to do? What does a person do? What makes a human being human? What makes him human? So the Rebbe is saying, according even to non-religious, totally atheistic world, a person that's a hero, that stands up for something, he defies nature, that's a hero. That's a man. A person that's kind. You see all these videos about people who are kind to animals, and they find whatever it is, a trapped alligator or something, they release him. Oh, this is kind. That's a person. That's unusual, right? That's kind. A person that is, he's honest. He found a wallet and he gives it back. Oh, this is good, He gives him money. That's called a person. Oh, he went out of nature. That's unusual. So here the Rebbe is saying that's a little bit of good. That's true. You follow your conscience, that's doing good. But here the Rebbe is saying even when you can follow the source of your conscience, that every instant, not just giving money to a poor person, but every smile, every good thought you have is giving charity to the whole world. So Nimsa, so it comes out that it's the seventh chapter of Shabbat is stressing the whole thing of Geula. That's why it starts off with an unusual type of work, namely planting. Should have started out with plowing, because the whole idea of the exiles, the Jews are planted in the world, and the whole idea of the redemption is that we plant in the world the seeds of Torah and the commandments. That's in the end. It shouldn't be going from the one domain to another. Logically, it should be putting on the finishing touch. As the Rebbe know, the whole point of ending the exile is for going from one domain, a public domain of confusion, to a private domain of purpose in the world. That's the whole thing of Geula, the redemption. Generally, that's what's called Klal Gadol. That's the name of the seventh chapter of the Mishnayot, of the Talmud, of Shabbat. It says Klal Gadol, a general principle. Hein B'Nagia, this is regarding to the Jewish people, not only the redemption of each and every Jew, but or even one small detail, or one small, but all a Klal Gadol. Not just one person will go out of exile, but everyone, she'ein l'mayla mimenu, all the Jewish people will go out. But we finished learning in Torah or how you can go out of the exile. Start thinking about God when you pray. What about all the Jews? It says all the Jews will come to wake up. All of the Jews. I mean, to a certain degree, they're already waking up to a certain degree all the time, because a Jew very, very rarely will deny his Judaism. Very rarely. And if he denies it to others, he won't deny it to himself. Even though he doesn't know what it is and he doesn't like it. But that little point of true identity will be revealed in your whole personality. Whether regarding to all the Jewish people, and also not just the Jewish people as they are to themselves, but also in everything in the world. Sha'apula will be Bakal in Yane in all of the matters of the world. Sheklolo, this includes all the details of the 32 works in the world. And others, also all the non-Jews in the world will be elevated. God, the same God that creates us, creates them, creates everybody. Everything is important. To the lowest of the lowest levels, the lowest of there can't be any lower than it. That's what the thing of what Bilam was, right? Shagam Sham, that also there will be going from one domain to another for a good way. For Rishus Rabim, from the public domain to a private domain. Yechirush Olam, namely the one God of the creator of the world. In other words, Dira Lo Yabbatachtonim, that God will be dwelling here in this world. And this is especially stressed by Yud-based Talmud, how we affect the whole entire world. How that we're going to learn, God willing, tomorrow. Now let's do the Yom Yom. I'll have to do 2 days of Yom Yom because I didn't record yesterday's. So here we go. 1 second.
Recording.
1 minute. Stop the share.